Hi, this is Martha Thornburg, and we're going to be looking at creating a Google site. Google Sites was newly revamped about a year ago, and it's got some great features, and there's new features being added all the time that make it even easier and more helpful. A lot of people ask me, should I do a Google site or a Google Classroom? There are reasons to have both of those things. A Google site is more of a public space for sharing work, ideas, things like that that you want everyone to be able to see, and not quite so interactive. A Google Classroom is a closed environment with just your students in the class. It's not really designed to showcase work outside of your classroom, or even, it's more, it's a great way, it's a great management tool in your classroom for sharing content with your students, assigning things, keeping up with assignments, having students turn work back in, having conversations. So that's Google Classroom. That's another class that we'll do, but a Google site is a website, and so any reason that you might need a website, it's a tool that is easy enough for all of us to use. It's our students can use it as well, so it makes a great digital portfolio tool. It works well with all of our Google products. It's very easy to use with all of our Google products. So students can create documents, drawings, slideshows, all that kind of stuff that can easily be embedded into a Google site. It's great for project pages. It's great for a classroom website, etc. So on the website, you'll see that there's a slideshow here that goes through the introduction and all the stuff. But what I'm going to do in this video is just open up a Google site, show you how to get there, and take you through the steps of what you might see and what kind of things that you can do. All of that information is also available in the slideshow, so you can go back and review it later on. But this is just kind of a live version of that. So first of all, we're going to go to a Google site. So I'm going to pop over here. There's a couple of ways to get there. So one way is if you're on the Google page, so you're signed into Chrome. Everything works better in Chrome when you're working with Google products. This Google Apps Launcher over here, you may see on the Google Apps Launcher, you may see sites here. Now, sometimes you don't see sites there if you haven't been using sites. So that is one way to find it. And if you don't see it up here on your launcher, maybe if you hit more, you might see it down here. So one place you can find it is by going to the Apps Launcher here. The other way that you can find it is it's actually something that you can create in Google Drive. So I'm going to click on Google Drive, and you have your favorite way of getting to Google Drive, I'm sure. So in Google Drive, you'll notice up here I have a few Google sites that are popped in here. So the nice thing about the new Google Sites is that it saves in your Google Drive, just like all of your other Google files. It can be shared in the same way that you can share your others. People can collaborate, etc. So to create a new Google site, you would go to New, and then down to More until you find Google Sites here. And this is where we start with a new Google site. Now, I did want to show you something else. So I'm going to pop over here for just a minute so I can show you. If I go to Google Sites here, the way that I shared with you, so you'll see here it looks a little bit different than when I went to it through the Google Drive. And here, what this is doing is it's listing all of my, what they're calling, I believe, classic Google Sites. So these are the pre-new Google Sites, Google Sites that I created. But you'll notice over here on the left, it says New Google Sites. And so that's where you would get to the new Google Sites. I wanted to point this out because if you get here and you're on the old Google Sites, that's not where you want to be. So you want to make sure that you're going to the new Google Sites. If you go through the drive, you'll get there automatically. But if you just Google Sites, or if you use the app launcher here, it might take you to the classic Google Sites. So you want to make sure that you click on this one to get to the new Google Sites. In this case, here's all my new Google Sites and how I would add on to them later on. Okay, so back to the one that we just started. So remember, I went to my Google Drive and I went to New, and then I scrolled down and found the Google Sites and clicked on that, and this is what I came up with. So here you'll see this is just a really simple format for you to use. Some of it will remind you of other tools in your Google Drive. Like for instance, up here is where you name your site. And then in here you can add a title. And you'll notice when I'm typing in here, I get some options, so I can change the size here. I can change the alignment. I can add a link. You'll also notice another thing, and also you'll notice that you can move things around in here as well a little bit. Okay? So just a few things to play with there. And I'm going to come back to this. You'll notice that when I hover over something, things pop up. So remember that as well. You'll see that as you move through this. Up here at the top, there's a few things we'll look at when we get a little bit further along in the process. What I want you to look at now, since we're just creating, is over here there's 3 tabs, and this is where all of your creating happens. So you've got the Pages tab, well, you have the Insert tab, and then the Pages tab and the Themes tab. So what happens on the Insert, this is where any content that you want to create comes from. And we'll talk about that. You can add as many pages as you want. Just right here, you can add pages or links that you want to be on your website, and we'll look at that. And then themes, there's not a whole lot of themes on here because they want everything to look good, and so they try to make it very, very simple, and they keep the fonts and the colors and those kind of things standard for you, which is frustrating if you're used to being very creative with your site. But if you're a very creative person, you will find ways to be very creative with this as well, and I'll show you a few things on it. But if you just want to plop up a Google site really quickly to show your students all the resources available for your Revolutionary War unit, you can do that very quickly and it will look good, and that's the cool thing about this site. Okay, so I'm going to start with the Insert button right here, just to show you how simple it is to insert things in your Google site. So up here it gives you some options. Of course, text box. So if I click here, it just pops in a text box here. Just lines it up right there for you to type in, and you see you've got all of these different things that you can do with it. Okay, and I can go in here and I can change it to bold. I can change the text to title if I want it big, etc. I can add a link if I want this to be a link. All of those things, super simple to do. You'll notice that I don't have the option to change the color of the text. Those options are handled in Themes over on the right, and we'll get to that in a little bit. I can change the background. So see, if I hover over here, I can change the background by clicking on the little palette. and I've got a few choices, not many. So in this case, in the theme I'm in right now, I have a gray one or a blue one, or I can add an image. So that's where you can get a little bit creative with what you do there, because you can add any image. Just an example there. Okay, so text boxes. The other thing I wanted to show you about the text box is that you can change it around. There's grids, and move it to where you want it to go. So if I did, something like this, I can move this over here, and then I could add another text box, and that text box could actually be dragged up here. So I have more than one text box in this section. So just get in and play around with the text boxes. Super simple, just drag and drop. Same thing with images. So you've got the option to upload something from your computer or select something. And in the selections, you can, if you have a URL for an image, you can add that there. You can search for an image in Google. If you've got something already in your albums or in Google Drive, you can grab them there as well. So if it's if I hit search here, then I can grab my picture and throw it in here, and I have the option of cropping. I can resize. I can move it over here. Whoa, made it really big on accident. He is a very big dog. So all kinds of things that you can do with images there. Okay, just for fun. Then you have a couple of other things, and this is the real power in a Google site, is that you can add anything from your Google Drive into your Google site. Any kind of file, a video, an image, a drawing, a document, a map, anything that you've created that's stored in your Google Drive, you can put on here. Now I want to say right now that anything that's in your Google Drive is password protected. So you have to change the permissions for whatever it is that you're adding in Google Drive before adding it to your Google site. Because if you don't change the permissions, you're going to be able to see it in your site and you're going to think it looks beautiful, but then somebody else goes to your site and it's going to say you do not have permission to see this document or this slideshow or whatever. So make sure that you change the permissions to, I always say anyone with a link can view, if you want to include those in there. And I'll show you how to add some of those things in just a minute. So the other thing that you can do is you can embed. So not only can you get anything from your Google Drive, you can also embed things from other sources besides your Google Drive. So a lot of times when you create something using a web tool, a Padlet or a map or a video or something like that, it will provide you with an embed code for sharing, and you can grab that embed code and put that into your Google site. And I can show more about that later too. You can also, there's just all kinds of things outside things that you can embed. So we'll come back to the embed in a minute. You'll see here that there's some layouts. This is a new feature that just came on. So not only do you have the standard just kind of layer over layer over layer, you can change the layout. So it's already set up for an image and text or etc. So you can go in and use these layouts. You can also add a button. So if you want somebody to click somewhere to go somewhere, if you click there, it'll create a button. So And if I put a site for you to go to on here, and now it's created a button, which would be a live, take you to whatever it is that you've created there. Dividers, just a way to make something look nice, sort off information. Okay, so all of those things you can add in a Google site super simply. Now here's the cool thing. I know I'm making a mess of this particular Google site, but if you scroll down here, you'll see that all of your Google tools that you can create are super simple to add into a Google site. So starting with a YouTube video, I just click there, I put whatever the video is that I want to put in my and now my video is right in my Google site. I can change the size of it, move it around, all those kind of things. Same thing with a calendar, a map, any kind of Google Doc, which is kind of nice if you want to have an outward facing Google site, but you've got some documents that change, sign up sheets, things like that. You can have the doc running in Google Drive, and every time something is updated, it'll show up on your Google site, which is kind of nice. So same thing with Google Slides. You can embed Google Slides, Google Sheets. Forms are great because like maybe you have a form that you want parents to fill out, or some kind of you can create like a comment thing, or all kinds of things you could do like that, and you can embed the workable form right inside your Google site. So super simple to add anything Google within your Google Sites. It's all right there for you. Another thing that you'll see is if you double click, it will pop up this little screen, which is just another way to add things. I always forget to do that. It's easier for me just to come get the stuff from over here, but you do have that tool as well. Just double click and it pops up for you. Okay, so that's the insert piece. The pages, you start off with a home page, but you can add pages. So and you'll see it just pops in with a new page that I can play with there. Now if I want my page to, you'll notice up here that now I have a menu starting. So all of my pages are going to show up across the top of this this website. Now if I want to have sub-pages, all I have to do is take and drag it, and if I drag it to the home, you'll notice it becomes a sub-page. So now instead of the two pages showing up there, I have home, and then I have whatever I drop in under it. So that's a good thing to know. You'll notice down here, not only can you add a new page that you're creating on Google Sites, you can also add a link. So like if I had a link to some outside site, I always use CNN just because it's short to type, not because I care that much about CNN. But so you'll notice here right now it's a sub-page, and if I don't want it to be a sub-page, I can just pull it. You kind of have to play with it to pull it. So now you'll see that those two things are on my menu bar. And so this isn't really a page, but if I click on it, it's going to take me to CNN. So that's a good thing to know on that. And you can add all kinds of pages. I can even, I think you can go in two. So you can have two sub-pages. If I tried to go one more layer, it wouldn't work. So remember that when you're adding pages. The things we looked at earlier, so you'll notice if you click on the different things, it'll change just a little bit. Okay? And then if you click on the different colors, you'll see how, and that would change like the colored lines here. If you don't like the colors, you can click on the little paint can at the end and you can actually change the color to whatever you want it to be. So you have complete authority to change your colors. So now if I was going to use this one, let's just click my hot pink style here, and I added a text. I'm going to use my little text button. So adding text. And now if I hit the little paint palette over here, you'll see that my color, one of my emphasis colors is this pink that I just used to create that. So that's how you can change it to whatever color that you want. You'll notice also, now I'm just going through some other of the features, there's a place to add a logo. So you can select, if you've got a logo on your computer, you can do that there. Just because I'm just doing this on the fly, I'm just going to type in logo. And here's a logo. So I could add this little logo to my page. Obviously I wouldn't add this logo because that doesn't make any sense, but and this asks if I want to use logo color for theme, and I think I hit it. Edit logo. I don't want it to be transparent, then we can't see it. Okay. So there we go. So there's that. That's just one thing you can do. And then this right here, you'll also notice it says change image. So I can change what the header type looks like. So one thing I can do is if I click on the header type, I've got a few options. I've got this cover, which makes this big screen cover thing that you might want to, just put a little bit on the front page and then link off to other pages or something. I don't like that one. And then you've got the large banner, the regular banner. This is probably my favorite. It doesn't take up too much space, but you can add some personality. And then you can just do title only. So you have all of those different options. So I'm going to put it on this one so you can see what I can do with images. So I can also change the image. And they've got the, so you can upload any kind of image that you've created. Just remember, this is the size that you're working with, so it needs to be that shape or it's not going to crop right. If I select an image, it comes up with a gallery where you can select things from the gallery, or again, you can search for things. Here's my Great Dane again. So I could make something like that my page. And you'll notice right there it says it's adjusting for readability. So depending on what kind of picture you put in there, it might make it darker or lighter or more transparent. It might make the text color change colors to make it more readable. So again, so that's from changing images and the different header types that you have. So I think that's all there's just a million possibilities from that. And now if you take a look up here at these different features, of course you've got the undo button. You also have a preview button. And on the preview button, you can see what your page will look like as a web page, on a tablet, and also on a phone. So that's a nice thing to be able to kind of play around with and see what that would look like. You'll notice here, I'm going to click out of here. You can also, if I go over here and I hover, there's a little gear right here. So remember our navigation settings right now are across the top. We only have one right now, but we could have several different pages here. But if I want them to show up on the side, when I hover over here to this little gear, I can change it to side navigation. So now when I look at it, the navigation is over here on the side instead of up at the top. So again, it's what you want it to look like. And then, so that's the eyeball to see. So this is where you get the link to your page. We haven't published this page yet, so there's not a way to do that, and I'll show you the publishing piece in just a second. And this is how you can share with others. So if I click on the Share with Others button, the default is that it's published to anyone in the Mount Vernon School District can find and view. And the draft means you can change this to different people can jump in and edit it. So this one, you're probably going to want to invite specific people. Like if you've got another teacher who's working with you on a project, or you have two students who are working on a site together, etc. So this is just like your share button on your other Google tools. And then this more button, always good to know about the more button. So if you create something really cool, like a portfolio or something like that, you might want to just duplicate the site. You can add a favicon, which is the little things that show up here on your tabs. And so in my case, it's going to be this logo thing here, which is kind of silly, or you can add whatever you want for your favicon. So just a way to identify your site. You can look at who's visited your site and things like that with site analytics. If you need to know more, you can take a tour and you can get help here. So those are the options. Now let's look at the Publish button. So the Publish button is going to ask you what you want to name your site, and you can name it whatever you want. If it's already taken, it won't let you take it. And I would suggest that you name it something that's fairly easy to remember, so it's easy for students and others people to find. I also suggest that once you create your website, that you find a way to link it to another site, like for instance to your school site or in your Google Classroom or something like that, so that students aren't having to type in any address to get to your site. They can just click on a link to get there. So right now, I have it so only people in the Mount Vernon School District can view. If this is something that you want your parents to be able to view, or the whole outside world, then you need to click on Manage, and you need to change that to anyone can find and view the published version of this. So you have those different publishing options, and the default is going to be anyone in Mount Vernon School District. But if you want this to be an outward-facing site, make sure that you put that there. And also, just a reminder that anything that's published, you need to really pay attention to child safety, and make sure that you're not, your students or you are not providing information that you shouldn't about them on any outward-facing site, like last name, address, age, things like that. The other thing is that if it's outward-facing, you need to make sure that you have permission to use images, videos, all of that, all the things that you might add to the site, that you have permission to publish those things. Okay. So one more thing about publishing is everything is automatically saved for you when you're working in a Google site, but the only way that other people are going to see what you have created is if you push the publish button. So you can get in and you can make changes and try things out and do all that kind of stuff, and nobody's going to see that until you hit the publish button. And when you hit the publish button, that updates the page that is viewable to everybody else. If I click these down arrows beside the publish button, you'll see your publishing settings, you'll see what your published site looks like, and you can also unpublish. So you're playing around with it and then you're like, this is something I need to take offline for a little while to do some work or whatever, you can click that unpublish. Okay, so it's pretty simple to use. You've got your insert, your pages, and your themes, and you can be pretty creative with it. I want to go back to, let's see if I can find where I was. I want to go back to, see if I can find it. Go back to our Google slideshow that I was showing you at the beginning. Can get there this way. And point out a couple of things to you about that. So, long way around here for me. Okay, in this Google slideshow, just so you know, it takes you through all the steps that I just talked with you about how to find your sites, what to do with creating them, all the different buttons, and some buttons I haven't even shown you. And if you go to the very end, you'll notice there's some nice examples for you that you can take a look at and get some ideas of what you can do with, and some ideas of how you can use the content as well. So some nice things here at the end that are worth taking a look at. So I hope this is helpful, and I'm excited to see what you create.